So this slide right here as it builds is really talking about, we have on-premise on the left-hand side here, and then it spans all the way to the right-hand side. But, when you look at this slide, you've got on-premise. So when you're on-premise, you have the ultimate highest control inside your organization of your IT servers and all your hardware. If you want to increase, for example, your server performance, then you can go out and add more RAM and you can add more CPU processing power. And that's the highest control, so on-premise on your site. When we go to the left a little bit, we're talking about infrastructure as a service, private cloud. So think about taking your hardware and putting it into a data center, or using a data center's hardware, but having a little bit of control of what type of configuration that hardware should have. And think of the reason you want to do this is when you look at your on-premise solution, how many T1 lines or how many internet lines are going into it? Do you have backup generators? So you need to ask yourself that kind of stuff. Do you have good physical security 7 by 24 by 365 with disgruntled employees today? Is it possible that they can go into your server room and throw a bucket of water on all your servers and take your whole entire infrastructure down for hours or days? What kind of problem can you run into? So, when you move your infrastructure into a data center, it's just a lot more secure. I think one thing that I see is customers try to compare their on-premise solution with a data center, and they say, well, that's apple and apples, and it's really not. It's apple and oranges type thing. There is a big difference between what's provided in most of the data centers out there versus what you have on-premise. I don't walk into too many customer locations where they have a backup diesel generator that'll run for days if we have a major power outage within the U.S. here. And then as we go further right, we go into infrastructure as a service public cloud. So we're really moving into having our applications still hosted maybe a little bit more in a virtual environment where multiple customers are running on the same server box, and we have a little bit less control. But we're starting to get economies of scale if you look at the bottom line here, and that economies of scale is really having data center experts that work in a very focused manner on specifically backing up your data, making sure the servers are tuned, that type of stuff. And you typically don't get that high level of expertise as a small customer if you have a generalist that might be good at some applications, a little bit good at data center, and a little bit good in the hardware. They kind of wear many hats. Where in these data centers, they're really just focusing on a few different core services that they provide customers. And then on the far right-hand side here is SaaS. So in a SaaS environment, I said that there's certain applications that I believe make more sense and that are less impactful to your business. I think when you look at ERP, for example, I think that makes a lot more sense in a private cloud environment. And the reason for that is when you go into a SaaS environment, you're not going to be able to tell them when you want your system upgraded. They'll notify you. They'll give you maybe some opportunity to test it a little bit, but they'll upgrade you when they need to upgrade all their other customers. So a SaaS environment really is about one application with multiple customers sharing that same database. And by them sharing the same database, when they upgrade the application, they're upgrading it for multiple customers. So that model really lends itself to making sure that everybody's current, and you really you don't have a whole lot of say in it. So you really lose all control, but you do have the highest level of economies of scale because it's one upgrade for 10 customers, for example, all at once.